Your woman reflects your deepest integrity. By Massimo Fontana. A night out anywhere in the world holds within a marvel of interesting sights and experiences. These experiences allow one the opportunity to observe with ease whether a man has a great degree of integrity or not. The definition of integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. A beautiful phrase to hold in mind is a gentleman of complete integrity. Although this is a simple enough definition, the words honest and moral are two words which need to have a conscious and purposeful striving towards before we can get remotely close to its true essence. I feel all human beings need a polarity of experience before they can truly understand and identify with their integrity. Much of this development stems from our upbringing and the values and beliefs that are transferred from our parents onto us. It is through these experiences in life that beliefs and values are either refuted or accepted, and when accepted, then they become solidified. Observing a very wealthy older man with a 20-something girl in his company and his attention being on everyone else rather than being mesmerized and completely present in the moment with her is a fascinating experience to observe. His attention is keenly focused on who is observing his accomplishment of getting such a young girl to be with him. Like most experiences in life, people's actions and responses to life hold a myriad of different nuances and meanings. As a starting point, there is absolutely nothing wrong with dating a younger woman or younger man. However, there is something very wrong when we apply the integrity principle to the experience. We all have mirror neurons in each of our bodies, which is the human body's ability to mirror the behaviors, manners, and cell function of another person on a neurological level. This completely unconscious process applies greatly to the people we choose to have around us, and applies especially to the individual we decide to be our partner. If there is this unconscious mirroring process occurring at all times within the world and people around us, we are completely oblivious to what is being shared. We can use our emotions as a means of identifying the impact and effect that these interactions have. However, we need to learn to sit more consciously with ourselves to become fully aware of this bodily change before we can make the very relevant changes necessary. Unless the young woman chosen by the older man sees herself in high esteem in relation to the man, meaning, does she see herself as equal on a financial, emotional, spiritual, physical, and sexual level? If she cannot answer yes to being his equal on her own interpretation of the 5 areas, then she will naturally subordinate herself against him. This means that she will lower herself and make herself feel lesser than him, creating an unhealthy dependency on him until she has understood a way of seeing her own worth in the 5 areas to balance out the relationship. We always look toward the other person in our life for qualities in which we lack within ourselves. We use this as a learning experience. However, because this is done on an unconscious level, we often find ourselves in a situation where we disable our ability to grow. Instead, we become dependent on what the other person offers us, and we become fearful of losing them. The reflection that occurs from a woman to a man reminds me of the story of Narcissus. I would suggest in reading the story in greater depth, as it allows us the opportunity to reflect on our own narcissism. In short, Narcissus falls in love with his own reflection when he drinks from the river Tiberon. Instead of questioning the reflection and using it as a sounding board to grow and develop, he creates the first condition of narcissism, where he feeds into the ego and dissolves any potential of any other person having a valuable space in his life. The key theme to the story is what our internal world displays to the outside world. In the same way, the internal world of a woman reflects the internal world of the man on many levels. The primary level that is in focus here is integrity. I hold issue with the woman in the above-mentioned example. The reason I say this is that if I compare men and women are the ones who have really shown real growth since the beginning of feminism, whereas men seem to have been stagnating, being unsure of where they stand and how they should act. Thankfully, this is a process in flux and something that we're busy changing. This young woman, although acutely aware of the principle of leverage and manipulation, has resorted to conscious subordinating herself to becoming a kept woman, instead of realizing her full potential and being focused on her own growth. This action occurs daily in many circumstances, and the most frustrating part of this equation is that men will use this to their advantage, rather than being challenged to grow and become good men by their woman. This maintains a very basic level of relating, which keeps the man focused on his ego and never being able to transcend this ego-driven state into a place where he learns how to understand his masculinity or contain his woman. I'm very sure that somewhere in your life you've heard of someone or come across a situation where a man is in a relationship and he changes because of a woman. The manner in which he relates to others is a change so pivotal and drastically apparent that he is perceived differently immediately. We often make the judgment that this woman has changed him, whereas she has led him to a place where he is now ready for the change away from the ego-driven masculine. Men all know the perfect type of woman for them, the one who they feel would be most suited on every level. The problem here is that these relationships do not necessarily work out for the best because men cannot tolerate the higher degree of integrity that a woman holds in comparison to his. This leaves him feeling inadequate and at times ashamed at himself for not being as great or equal to the integrity being shown. Women will often hear, "I'm not ready for a relationship, I need to focus on me. I have a goal I want to achieve, I can't give myself entirely in a relationship," etc. These are all statements linked with feelings of inadequacy and a very distinct realization that the woman in front of them is too developed on a level of integrity, and they feel they cannot match up to this. So what's the solution? Men really need to understand the meaning of the word surrender. Being resistant to change brings with it a great deal of emotional turmoil, one of the things that all men dislike. There really is not an easy solution for this because it's fundamentally down to the willingness of a man to want to change and grow so that he can transcend his ego. If a man places more value on their success in life, this will be a difficult process. However, by surrendering to one's masculinity does allow for a rare opportunity to embrace every experience that life has to offer, eventually leading to a different type of success. Men need to make a conscious choice as to whether they feel they need many women in their life or whether they want one woman in their life. This decision in itself clarifies much for the man's mind. However, it needs to be reflected on when in a lesser ego-driven state. A great analogy would be like going grocery shopping when you are full in comparison to when your tummy is empty. There is a vast difference between the two experiences. The same can be said with a more conscious state in comparison to the ego-driven state. But fundamentally, the decision is completely yours.